Hey guys, it's Graham. Welcome back to my channel, and today I'm going to be telling you my 4-step method to finding the perfect host family. I've come up with this method using my personal experience of finding 3 different host families. This is a method made by an au pair for au pairs, so I'm going to share that with you today. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to the channel and like this video so you can see all the content that I produce. That being said, let's jump right into this video. If you're looking to become an au pair, one of the biggest things you're going to have to wrestle with is how to find a host family. And before you can find a host family, you need to know what a host family is. So that is step 1 of the process, figuring out what is a host family. If you already know this step, go right down at the bottom to the scroll bar and you can scroll on to the next step. But a host family, they are not just going to be your employers, but they are going to be your support system in your host country. Most likely, you will live with them, you will experience life with them, and most importantly, you will take care of their children. These are the people that are going to pay you, they're going to house you, they're going to feed you, they're going to make sure you're safe. So when you're picking a host family, you do want to make sure that you pick a really good one so they'll do all of those things and make sure your au pair stay is going to be high quality. The last thing I'll say about host families before I go into step 2 is some host families are going to be looking for an employee and some are going to be looking for another member of the family. Host families that are looking for an employee just want someone who's going to take care of the kids, work a certain amount of hours, and then go home and live their own lives. If they're looking for another member of their family, they're going to be looking for someone to share their culture with, share their lives with, and have the reverse happen as well. And I'm going to tell you how to sort between those two in the next step. So step number 2 is to develop your search criteria. And to help you figure this one out, I've come up with 4 big questions you need to ask yourself to come up with search criteria. Number 1, do you want to be an employee or do you want to be a member of the family? So this ties right back into what I was saying just a second ago. If you are wanting to be an employee, you need to figure that out really quickly, because if you pick the wrong family, a family that's expecting one or the other, and you go and live with them expecting something else, you are going to have a less than pleasant experience. In just a moment, I'm going to tell you how to tell which family wants which and how to pick between the two. The next question you need to ask is, what country are you going to go to? When you're thinking about this, you need to think about language skills. Do you have any prior language skills, or do you want to learn a specific language of a specific country? Do you hate cold weather? Well, Germany, Sweden, Norway is probably not going to be your country. You should look in Spain and Italy. Are you looking to travel a lot during your au pair year? If so, you're probably going to want to find yourself in a big city, because if you're living in the countryside, it's going to be kind of difficult to travel. Do you really enjoy nature? If so, you're going to want to find a host family that's in the countryside, further away from the city, where you can find some peace and quiet and nature. The next big question you need to ask yourself about your search criteria is the kids. Specifically, what number of kids do you want and what ages do you want? Now, if you're completely new to childcare, this might be kind of a new concept for you, so I'm gonna break it down for you. Do you want to just cuddle all day and have more of a low stress job, but more work? In that case, you're probably gonna want babies or younger kids. If you're looking to have kids that are a bit more independent and can do things without you, but you're probably gonna have to deal with a bit of sass, then you're gonna look for older kids like I have. Generally, I think between the ages of 0 and 4 is a pretty easy age where you just do lots of cuddling, but it's also a lot of work. And then the ages between 6 and 10 is a bit more difficult as they are making their own decisions. And then anything over 10 I think gets a bit easier again because they do their own thing. The last big question you need to ask yourself is, how long do you plan to stay in your host country? Do you want to stay just a couple of months and avoid having to get a visa, or do you want to stay a long period of time to assimilate yourself into your host country's language and the culture? So step 3 is to begin your search to find a host family. Generally, there's 3 ways that au pairs are going to find host families: AuPairWorld, an agency, or Facebook groups. I'm going to start with my favorite, AuPairWorld. AuPairWorld is a website. It's called AuPairWorld.com. It's super simple to use, very user-friendly, and the best part, it is free for au pairs. I also really like AuPairWorld because it is safe. They do have a method of checking the safety of their families, and they talk about that on their website if you're interested in reading on it. Another big pro of AuPairWorld is the majority of host families looking for au pairs are going to be on AuPairWorld. So there you're going to have the most options and the widest range of families to look for. The biggest con about AuPairWorld is you do have to do the work. You're going to have to send the messages, you're going to have to respond to messages, and generally you're going to have to do the searching for the host families you want. The next way to find host families is Facebook groups. This is my least favorite way because I think it's the most dangerous and just absolutely full of scams, but sometimes it does work. Pros of finding host families on Facebook groups is it's free and it's really accessible. Most of us do have Facebook, so you can just join, for example, Au Pair Spain, Au Pair Madrid, Au Pair France, and find a host family that way. Another big pro is it's super fast. So if you don't need a visa to go to your host country, I've heard of some au pairs finding families and then traveling to their country all within a matter of like 2 weeks. So it's super fast versus AuPairWorld or the next thing I'm about to tell you about, which is a bit slower. The cons are, like I said earlier, it's pretty scammy. I would say 1 in 3 or 1 in 4 host families on Facebook groups is a scam, where they'll ask you to send them money so they can get you a visa, and then you never hear from them again, or they delete their account or something. So it is quite scammy, and it can also be a bit dangerous considering there's no way to check if these people are actually real. The last con, just like AuPairWorld, you do have to do the work. You're gonna have to do the looking, have to do the searching, and it can be kind of soul-sucking after a while. The last big way that au pairs find host families is an agency. I've never used an agency. I'm not a huge fan of the concept, being that we do live in the 21st century, but some au pairs do like to use agencies to find host families. The benefits of using an agency is it's really safe, it's not much work, and they're gonna support you through your whole stay. The cons are, to get an agency to find a host family for you, you're going to have to pay them to look. Most agencies cost somewhere between 1 and 300 euros if you're looking to use them inside Europe, and I think it's a bit more in the US, so that is kind of a downside of using an agency, but some people may prefer it. Another downside is you're not gonna have as much choice as au pairs who don't use agencies. So an agency, you give them your information and then they email you candidates, normally anywhere from 1 to 3 candidates, and then you pick. Whereas with AuPairWorld, you will talk to an absolute ton of people, and I'll tell you how to sort through those in the next point. So the last step in this process is to narrow down your options and to communicate with host families. If your search criteria was successful and you are producing potential host families, then you're gonna have to communicate with them and narrow down your options to find out which one's right for you. The big thing here is to talk a lot. When these host families start sending you messages, I would be sure to communicate quite a lot with them, technical things at first, and then talk personality issues later. Also, be sure you are video chatting these families. If you're talking with them over text, you find out you're compatible, set up at least 2 video calls. I think this is super important. Do 1 video call just to see if you like them, ask them some basic questions, and if you do like them, if they pass the test, go ahead and set up another video call. Before you sign on with a family, I suggest you do at least 2 video calls, no less. Doing this is gonna help you figure out if you're really compatible with the family and if they're really right for you. You can tell a whole lot about people just by the way they talk to you over a phone call, so it is exceptionally important that you do talk to them face to face, not just emailing back and forth. Generally, you will very quickly narrow down your options by doing video calls because you will figure out who you like and who you don't like, and if you just so happen to be the unfortunate majority of au pairs who can't make a decision or it's very hard to pick between the two, you need to play au pair bingo. Yes, I know this sounds absolutely horrible to say out loud, but you should use a system that I've come up with to figure out which host family is best for you. Essentially, au pair bingo is just a tally chart. Going back to the second point, you're gonna put your different search criterias into different rows. Rows here, columns here. Up in the columns, you're going to put the names of different families and then little boxes down below beside the rows. With each family, you need to go down the column and write in the row whether they meet that search criteria. If they do, that is 1 point. If they don't, no points. Once you reach the end of the rows, tally up all the points and the family with the most points wins. Another great way to pick a family is flip a coin between the two, and I promise you when that coin is in the air, you'll know exactly which family to pick. If you haven't already, click on this little circle to subscribe, and I'm sure there's gonna be something right over here. If you enjoy the content, you can keep watching. So that wraps up the video on my 4 steps on how to find the perfect host family, and I'm absolutely positive that it will help you out. Thank you so much for watching. New content comes every Monday and Thursday, and I look forward to seeing you then. Muchas gracias por ver y hasta luego. Ciao.